Ladies and gentlemen, today's video is for all of the Islam Makachev superfans or just fans in general. We need to have an honest discussion about this topic because we cannot, as a society, as a mixed martial arts community, claim that we are sane and expect people from the outside to take us seriously if we continue to argue like this. Now, Jack Della Maddalena was recently crowned the welterweight champion of the UFC by beating Belal Muhammad, and this had massive implications for not only the welterweight division but the lightweight division as well. Seeing that Islam Makhachev, the sitting lightweight champion of the UFC, who was previously reluctant to move up to welterweight because he didn't want to potentially take away a belt from a friend to add to his own legacy. Belal was a champion at welterweight. Belal and Islam, they're good mates. Islam didn't want to face Belal, potentially beat Belal to take his belt and add to his own. But now that Jack ended up beating Belal, Islam has made it abundantly clear that he wants to fight Jack Della Maddalena for the welterweight belt of the UFC and potentially become a two-division champion. The same thing that Ilia Topuria wanted to achieve. Ilia was the featherweight champion of the UFC, wanted to move up to lightweight, vacated his featherweight belt, fight Islam Makhachev for the lightweight championship and become a two-division champion within the UFC. Now the ramifications for the lightweight division, if Islam proceeds to do this, is Ilia will probably face Charles Oliveira for the interim lightweight championship, which will basically, after Islam, whether he ends up beating or losing to Jack, will unify the belt at lightweight, fighting the winner of Ilia versus X, who is probably Charles Oliveira. Now, I thought about this, and I thought, how funny would it be if Jack Della Maddalena ended up giving Islam the exact same treatment Islam gave Ilia? Said, sorry buddy, you haven't proven anything at welterweight, back of the line. That would be insane. Now, I know, the wheels are turning, you're thinking, Islam has accomplished way more than Ilia has. First of all, that's subjective. Guarantee. What I'm about to tell you, I hope at the end of this video will turn into the general consensus. This is the first point, there is no justifiable argument that you could make to suggest that Islam is worthy to fight Jack Della Maddalena, but Ilia isn't worthy of fighting Islam. None. You could not justifiably say that Islam deserves to fight Jack, Ilia doesn't deserve to fight Islam. Now, you are thinking, well, once again, Islam has accomplished way more within the UFC. I'm here to tell you that is not the truth. That is subjective. If we look at it objectively, Islam has been inside of the UFC for 10 years. Ilia has been inside of the UFC for 5 years. Now, if we want to compare their careers with one another, let's look at the 5 years. So, Islam's first 5 years within the UFC, 8 fights. Ilia, 8 fights. Islam's record, 7 wins, 1 loss. Decent. Ilia's record's obviously 8 wins, 0 losses. Out of Islam's 7 wins, 4 of them has been via unanimous decision. Out of Ilia's 8 wins, 2 of them has been via unanimous decision. Ilia has been way more dominant in his victories than Islam has. Out of Islam's 7 wins, 1 performance bonus. Out of Ilia's 8 wins, 5 of them has been warranted a performance bonus. And not to mention that Ilia has been champion and has defended his belt within his first 5 years. Now, you can say, well, Islam has defended his belt 4 times. Sure, one of them was Renato Moicano. So, if we look at it like that, Ilia could have gone and said, yeah, I'm going to defend my belt. Bryce Mitchell, come on, brother. Rematch. Okay, so Islam officially has 4 title defenses, basically 3. It was short notice and a lot of props to Islam for taking that fight. Now, I want to make this very clear before I go on to the second point, which is basically the mic drop. I'm not an Islam hater. Okay? Just because I disagree with a lot of things that Islam says or does doesn't make me a hater of Islam Makachev. I've watched Islam's entire UFC career. I have enjoyed Islam's entire UFC career. I have enjoyed the fact that he has been dominant, he has been undefeated within a decade of fighting inside of the UFC. I've been on record saying that Islam Makhachev is probably one of the top 3 lightweights of all time. So impossible for me to be a hater. I watch every single Islam Makhachev fight. I enjoy Islam outside of the octagon as well. I think he's incredibly funny. But it doesn't take away the fact that I am allowed to disagree with the things he says and the things he ends up doing. Just because I'm a fan, it doesn't mean I'm a follower. Okay, he is someone that I enjoy fighting. He is not my leader, if that makes sense. The second point, which is objectively a fact, not an opinion, a fact. Do you know how many double champions or potential double champions, 2 division champions, ever had to prove themselves inside of a division prior to fighting for that division's belt? None. Apart from Alex Pereira. And the reason why Alex had to have a fight at light heavyweight prior to fighting for the championship was due to the fact that he lost to Izzy. If you recall correctly, Alex Pereira lost to Israel Adesanya at middleweight. And that is why when he moved up to light heavyweight, he had to fight Jan Blachowicz prior to fighting Yuri Prochazka. But if you look at every single double champ of the UFC, especially simultaneous double champs, which Ilia would have been had he not vacated his belt, all of them immediately fought for the belt at the different weight class, and even the potential ones as well. John Jones immediately fought Stipe, immediately fought Cyril Gane. Daniel Cormier immediately fought Stipe. Conor McGregor ended up beating Aldo, immediately fought Eddie Alvarez. Amanda Nunes immediately fought at featherweight. We could go on. George St. Pierre, after a 4-year layoff. So George St. Pierre fought in 2013. In 2017, without having another fight, in 4 years, GSP fought Michael Bisping for the middleweight belt, ended up beating Bisping, then retired afterwards. So for 4 years, GSP was as active inside of the UFC as Dylan Dennis, and ended up fighting Michael Bisping for the middleweight strap. Henry Cejudo had 1 title defense at flyweight against, by the way, TJ Dillashaw, who came from bantamweight and he wanted to become a 2-division champion. Fought Cejudo at flyweight. Cejudo ended up beating TJ, then moved up to bantamweight because TJ had to vacate the belt due to immediately Cejudo fought for the belt at bantamweight against Marlon Moraes. Israel Adesanya immediately fought Jan Blachowicz for the light heavyweight strap. So no fighter, no double champion ever had to prove themselves at a different weight class before fighting for the belt of said weight class. No sitting champion. And now people want to punish Ilia because he's not sitting, because he vacated the belt, which, by the way, was great for the UFC because we recently saw Volkan Lopez fight for that belt. How How are we this dense? How could we make this argument? So Ilia Topuria has to be the first potential double champ ever to prove himself at lightweight prior to fighting for the lightweight championship of the UFC. That's the second point. The third point, and the final point. No one inside of the lightweight division is more worthy of Ilia Topuria to fight for the lightweight championship. No one. Charles Oliveira? Is Charles Oliveira the true number one contender because he beat Michael Chandler? So why isn't Paddy the true number one contender? Because prior to Chandler, Charles lost to Arman Sarukian. Is Arman Sarukian the legitimate number one contender? Because he recently got that shot and he pulled out due to injury, which was, it was odd. Justin Gaethje, is he the rightful number one contender because he ended up beating Rafael Fiziev on short notice? A Rafael Fiziev who wasn't ranked prior to beating Fiziev? Gaethje lost to Holloway. So none of them are more worthy of fighting for the lightweight championship of the UFC over a guy in Ilia Topuria who, what did he achieve? So he knocked out the best featherweight of all time. And not at lightweight, he knocked out the best featherweight of all time at featherweight. He knocked him out. Not in the second fight that he fought said featherweight, the very first time. He made the greatest featherweight of all time. He made the narrative that people said that featherweight was washed. And, to add to his legacy, he knocked out the arguably, the third best featherweight of all time, who, by the way, has never been knocked out in his life. How are we? I'm perplexed.